Watch Symposium. I'm Austin. It's December 31st, 2020 here in Japan. We're getting ready to ring in the new year. In this video, let's talk about the 5 hottest Rolexes of 2020. Now, we're not going to talk about vintage pieces, neo-vintage pieces. No, we're going to talk about the modern 6-digit pieces in the 2020 Rolex catalog. We're talking about the pieces that theoretically you could buy at an authorized dealer, theoretically. And we're not just going to talk about the model. We're going to get specific. Here at Watch Symposium, we get into the nuances, and we're going to talk about the dial color, the configuration within this model that is the hottest of the hot. All right, starting at number 5 and working our way to number 1. At number 5, we have the 126710 BLRO. That's the ceramic GMT Pepsi. And that here in Japan sells for about 5,000 USD. Over retail? No, over what the BLNR goes for. So just as a metric and as an example, I'm going to refer to this 2020-2021 catalog from Quark. Quark is a brick and mortar shop here. If you check out page 7, you can see they kind of put the desirable model a little bit bigger, and you can see it's right next to the BLNR. The price here, as listed, is 2,248,000 yen, as opposed to the BLNR, which is 1,868,000 yen. Now, their prices are a little bit high, but on average, the BLRO goes for about 5,000 USD more than the BLNR. Now, compared to the retail price of these GMTs, and they both cost the same at an AD, the BLRO goes for over 10,000 more on the gray market. Whereas, as we've seen, you can get a BLNR Batgirl for about 7 over. So when it comes to the GMT, this is the one to have. Hot watch, I put this at number 5. Number 4 is the Submariner. Which Submariner? The 126610 LV. That's the green bezeled, black dialed ceramic Kermit, Starbucks, whatever you want to call it. That holds the place for number 4, the 4th hottest watch of 2020. And let's compare it to the all black version. Now here the all black version is a little bit bigger, but forget about that. Let's check out the prices that Quark would charge you for these. Here, about 1,800,000 yen. That's about $18,000, and it's more or less about $8,000 over retail. But look at this cermet, all right? That's 2,400,000. That's 24,000. So that's a good $14,000 over retail. And look, this is just one metric, but I think it's safe to say that if you walk into an AD and you see both pieces, the regular date sub and the cermet, you'd probably pick up the cermet. If you wanted to make a buck, you definitely would pick up a cermet. If you wanted to make a statement, you would pick up a cermet. If you just wanted a wearable piece, or if you were me and you just wanted which you like more, you'd probably just pick up the regular Submariner. But of course, it's just not quite as hot. It just doesn't quite have that punch. And we knew that they were coming out with the regular ceramic sub. That wasn't a big surprise. But we had a feeling that the Hulk was going away. We just didn't know if we were going to get another green Submariner, and we did. And again, you can argue whether it's as punchy as the Hulk. I don't think it is. Or if it's as collectible and as beautiful as a pre-ceramic Kermit. It's certainly not a transition piece, so collectability, I think, would certainly go with the pre-ceramic Kermit. But whatever you have to say about it, it was a surprise, and it's probably what people would choose if they were to choose a Submariner. So number 4 on this spot, the ceramic Kermit. Number 3, the Sky Dweller. Now we'll talk about which version is the hottest in a minute, but let's just talk about the Sky Dweller. That is a hard to get watch. It's a hard to find watch, even on the pre-owned market when you're shopping around. And I've gone to Nakano and I've seen like just a couple of Sky Dwellers. So I don't think they're making a lot. I don't think they're selling a lot. They're selling for a crazy premium on the pre-owned market. But which one is the one to have? The blue dial. Why? I don't know, just the world has decided the blue dial one is the one to have, and the sheep will follow, and it is beautiful. I have to say, I like the white dial. The blue is a close second. And look, if you're looking for the punchiest of the SDs, then definitely you would go for the blue dial. Now, just as a reference point, let's refer to this catalog, and they've got a black dialed version here, and they're selling it for 2,300,000 yen. Now, think about that for a second. That's about $1,000 less than they were selling the ceramic Kermit for. That was going for 24,000. So 23,000 for this, 24,000 for the Cermet. But keep in mind, this is the black version we're talking about. If we were talking about the blue version, it would go for over 26,000. Now this shop is kind of expensive, so I think that they would probably charge 28,000 for it, probably. But as you can see, that's more of a premium than the Cermet, and it's all about that blue dial. So number 3 on the list, the blue dialed Sky Dweller. Number 2 on the list, this is going to be a controversial choice, I think. Let me know what you think in the comment section. The Steel Datejust. The Steel Datejust, and I'm serious, all right? Now, why? Well, in 2020, something happened. The Datejust became unobtainable. It used to be where you could go to Datejusts R Us and pick up a Steel Datejust. Now, you can't. And if you say, hey, can you get one for me? They say, sorry, sir, we can't. So Datejusts R Us has now changed to two-tone diamond dial Datejusts R Us. And this was a big development, I think, in 2020. The fact that in 2019 you could get the Steel Datejust, now you can't. So this is a big thing. And look, we're talking about a Datejust, and I know you're thinking, well, what about the Explorer 2, and you're thinking of these other steel pieces. But look, we gotta give a little bit of a handicap to the Datejust because it's not a steel sports watch. It's a dress watch. I know you can wear it like a sports watch. It's basically a sports watch in dress watch form. But to think that the ubiquitous Datejust is now holding its own with many of these, Milgauss watches, Explorers, OPs is amazing. Which version? Well, personally, I like the smooth steel bezel Oyster bracelet versions. I like the 36mm versions, but I would have to say, as far as the hot watches, it would have to be the Datejust 41. It's not what I would get, but I think most people would want that because I think people like the bigger sizes. It's got more punch. It's a little bit more masculine. Nobody's going to say it's a 36mm girl's watch. And you'd have to go with the iconic version, and that would be the fluted bezel, the Jubilee bracelet. I don't think I like it quite as much as the sportier version, but it's the icon, and that's what you would go for. Now, what about the dial color? Well, that's up for debate. I would say classic black or blue. If I had to choose, I'd say blue is probably a little bit more desirable, but black could be more usable with pretty much anything. And throw your comments in the comment section as far as what dial style you think is the most desirable. But what I wouldn't go for is one of those floral dials. I think those are a little bit girly. I don't even know if they make those on the 41s. I know that they do on the 36. So number 3 would have to be a Datejust 41 Jubilee bracelet, fluted bezel, black or blue dial. If I had to choose, I'd say the blue dial. And number 1, the Oyster Perpetual. In 2020, the Oyster Perpetual had a rebirth. It went essentially from 0 to hero. Okay, it was never a 0. And if you kept track of the market, you could almost see this happening. 2020 hindsight, yes, but it got to a point where you couldn't even get the 36mm or the 39mm Oyster Perpetuals. So you could see some serious desirability there. And by the way, link in the description. I was in Fukuoka and I mused in that video about a time in the future where you couldn't even get an Oyster Perpetual. And it's come to pass. And again, you could kind of see it coming because you couldn't find those 39mm Oyster Perpetuals to save your life, especially not the white dialed version. And it even got to be the case with the 36 millimeter Oyster Perpetuals. But really what flipped it was the dial colors. The dial colors, I mean, this shocked everybody. And coming from a conservative company, it was like, wow, I didn't know that this could happen. It was exciting. It was kind of like, having dinner with your grandpa who takes 45 minutes to eat. Here he's mid-bite of his pork chop, and he's doing his 30 chews, and he turns to you and he opens his mouth, and you think, okay, we're going to talk about the weather, aren't we? And he says, let's go to the bar and have 5 shots. And you say, whoa, that's kind of unlike you, Grandpa. Yeah, it sounds kind of fun. And that's what happened with the Oyster Perpetual. It got fun. It got kind of crazy. And it's all about those bright dials. Those are the ones that people want. Those are the hot watches. The bright blue dial is what I like. The silver dial is beautiful, but it's the yellow, it's the turquoise. And specifically, we're going to choose the dial that is the hottest of the hot in a minute. But let me just say that it just had a transformation in people's consciousness. And I like the 36 millimeter versions. We'll have to go with the 41 because that's what people want. They like the bigger watches. I think it's a mistake. I would never buy one. I wouldn't want to wear one. But we're going for the hottest of the hot. And of course, if you're talking about what they sell for on the pre-owned market or on the gray market, it's the 41 to have. Now again, which dial color is debatable, but I think the crazier, the more of a premium. And I think the thing that gave us the biggest shock was the coral red dial. That was sort of like, the yellow, the green, the light blue. That was all pretty surprising. But the coral red dial was so bizarre. I mean, it's kind of polarizing. If you wanted the most punch with your OP, you would probably go for that. So that's my vote for the number one watch of 2020, the hottest of the hot, the 41 millimeter coral red dial. That's like, when I saw that coral red dial, that's like your grandpa, on his 3rd shot saying, hey man, let's take some body shots now. You go, whoa, Grandpa, I don't know, that's a little too much for me. Okay, but it's not for other people, and people like that. And we're talking about, watches that are bought for, their punchiness. And you can't get much punchier than the coral red dial. All right, now people are probably screaming at the computer screen, Daytona, they're pulling out their hair. They're saying, how can you not even mention the Daytona? But the fact is that 2020 really wasn't the year of the Daytona. The Daytona is perennially hot, all right? But not a lot of ink was spilled, not a lot of mention of the Daytona in 2020. There were other things that overshadowed it. But again, that's not to say that that's not an incredibly hot watch and debatably the hottest watch. It's certainly the watch that if you were to walk in an AD and look down in the case, it would be the watch that would blow your mind to see in the case at an AD, all right? And a big part of that is the premium that they sell for on the gray market. If you buy one of those watches, you probably stand to make the most money. And so there's that. But as far as Daytona fever in 2020, not really. It was overshadowed by other things. Now, we have to talk about which Daytona is the hottest of the hot, and that would be the white dial by far. Let's just refer back to this catalog right here. You've got the black dialed version. This is selling, well, it depends on the warranty choice, but the cheapest you could get it with a 3-year warranty is about 3 million yen, about $30,000. But go over to the white dial version, and it's about 3,228,000, so about 32,000, about 2,000 more. So the steel ceramic white dial version is the hottest of the Daytonas. But again, in 2020, it just wasn't in our consciousness in the same way. It was sort of in the back of our mind as probably the truly most desirable, as always, Rolex. But it didn't get much of a spotlight. What does all of this mean? It means that steel Rolexes are incredibly popular. And it's not just, and this happened in 2020, it's not just the professional models, but it's the dress steel pieces as well. And I'm talking about the Datejust and the pieces that fall sort of in between professional and dress, the OPs. And we've hit a point where Rolex steel no matter what the form, is incredibly desirable, incredibly hard to find. Going forward, what are we going to see? Is this desirability going to trickle down to what was previously the watches that you needed to buy to get these steel pieces? And I'm talking about the two-tone versions or the precious metal versions. In 5 years, are we going to be in a situation where you can't even find two-tone Datejusts? Perhaps. Now, I think two-tone Datejusts, if they do become really desirable, it'll be the ones without the diamonds, all right? No diamond dials or diamond encrusted bezels, okay? But if we hit a point where you can't even get just a champagne dial, Datejust two-tone, then I guess we could be in a situation where you can't even find the diamond versions. But I think those will be the last to go. I don't think people like them as much. They're more expensive, and they have a little bit of femininity to them. So maybe that's just my bias coming through. But, we could, in 5 years, see a situation where you go into an authorized dealer and there's like no men's pieces. I know that's bizarre to think about, but think about this, where you go in and there's really nothing but like a few two-tone diamond dialed Datejusts, right? You can't find something without diamonds. It could happen. It happened with the Oyster Perpetual. So we've seen stranger things, I think, but that would be pretty strange. Let me know what you think about my choices. Let me know what you think about my predictions. Are we going to rue the day that we didn't snap up those two-tone Datejusts without the diamonds? Let me know what you think. Take care. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you next time.